All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on something that's, well, kind of a big deal in our digital lives. Computer security.
Yeah, for sure. And you're here because you want to understand, I guess, what keeps our online lives safe, right? And also what the threats are without needing to become some kind of computer science expert.
Exactly. And that's what we aim to do.
Excellent.
Our source for this deep dive is this article, Computer Security and Security Technologies. And we're gonna pull out like the important stuff so you can understand the core ideas, the threats out there, and how we protect ourselves.
Right. Consider this like your shortcut to getting up to speed.
Yeah, yeah.
We won't get bogged down in the super technical details, but you will walk away with a good practical understanding of computer security and why it's so important for literally everyone.
Okay, cool. So let's jump right in. The article starts with a really helpful way to think about security, that it's about maintaining an acceptable level of risk.
Hmm.
And that immediately tells us something important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The article makes it clear that absolute 100% security is, well, it's more of an ideal than something you can actually achieve. It's more about constantly balancing, identifying potential dangers, figuring out how likely they are and how bad they could be, and then taking steps to keep that risk, I guess, within a range that's manageable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, think about it, you might have a very different level of risk that you're comfortable with for your personal photos than a bank does for its customer data.
Right, right.
And understanding that difference is that's key to applying these security principles effectively.
Yeah, and it's not like, you just buy a piece of software, install it, and you're done.
Yeah.
The article emphasizes that security is a process.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that makes sense because, like, the threats are constantly changing, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like this constant arms race. So it's this ongoing cycle that involves not just the tools and technologies that you use, but also the procedures, the policies that you put in place, and really importantly, the education and awareness of everyone who's involved in using and managing those systems.
Okay,
So it really requires this constant attention and adaptation.
got it. So the article breaks this process down into 4 key steps. So first we have evaluation. What does that look like in practice?
So evaluation is basically the intelligence gathering phase, right? So it's where you try to understand what the potential threats are, where your weaknesses might lie, and what the possible impact of a successful attack could be. It's kind of like a detective trying to, size up the situation.
Okay, that makes sense. So for evaluation, it's about risk assessment. But how granular does this typically get? Does an organization need to think about every single potential threat, no matter how improbable?
Yeah, that's a great question. And while you can't realistically plan for, every single like super unlikely scenario, a thorough evaluation involves identifying and prioritizing the most probable and impactful risks based on the intelligence you have and, past experiences. It's about focusing your resources where they'll have the most effect.
Got it. Then comes protection. That sounds like the actions you take to actually prevent attacks from happening in the first place, like, firewalls and antivirus software.
Exactly. So protection involves implementing a range of security controls, and these can be technical, administrative, or physical, and they're all designed to reduce the likelihood of an attack being successful and also to minimize the potential damage if one does get through. So yeah, firewalls and antivirus are definitely part of that toolkit.
Okay, and the third step is discovery. So this is about having the ability to realize when an attack has actually happened, even if, your defenses were supposed to stop it.
Precisely. So detection is crucial because even the best defenses, they can be breached. So you need to have systems and processes in place to monitor for unusual activity and quickly identify if and when a security incident occurs, so you can, take action.
Right. And the final step is answer. So that's the recovery phase,
Right.
dealing with the aftermath of an attack and getting things back on track.
Exactly. So answer encompasses incident response and recovery. It includes containing the damage, eradicating the threat, restoring affected systems and data, and then importantly, learning from the incident to improve your security posture for the future.
Okay, cool. Now, the article also lays out 3 fundamental principles of information security, often referred to as the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So let's start with confidentiality. In simple terms, what does that mean for you?
So confidentiality is all about keeping sensitive information private. So it means ensuring that only authorized individuals can access data that should be protected. Like, think about your online banking password, right?
Yeah.
That's a key piece of information you definitely want to keep confidential.
Right.
And organizations deal with huge amounts of confidential data, from customer records to trade secrets.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then integrity is the second principle. This is about making sure that your data is accurate and hasn't been messed with without permission.
Exactly. So integrity means maintaining the trustworthiness and reliability of information. You need to be confident that the data you're relying on hasn't been altered or corrupted, whether accidentally or maliciously.
Right.
Imagine if someone could, like, secretly change the balances in your bank account. That would be a direct violation of integrity.
Yeah, for sure. And the third is availability. This one seems pretty straightforward. It's about being able to access your data and systems when you need them.
Yeah, it is straightforward, but it's absolutely critical. If your systems are down or your data is inaccessible to authorized users, then security has failed in that regard, even if the data itself, remains confidential and unchanged. Think about a website crashing during a major sales event.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That's a failure of availability.
Right. The article also briefly mentions different areas where security efforts are focused. So resource security, network security, location security, and service security. It sounds like these are just different lenses through which you apply those core principles.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So resource security focuses on protecting specific assets like individual files or databases.
Eh?
Network security deals with safeguarding the communication channels and infrastructure that connect systems. Location security is concerned with the physical security of the facilities housing your IT equipment. And service security focuses on protecting the functionality and data associated with specific services, like email or online applications.
Got it, got it. Okay, so we've got a good handle on the definition of security and its core principles. Now the article moves into understanding attacks and threats, making the point that to defend effectively, you need to know what you're up against.
Oh, absolutely. Understanding the motives, methods, and sources of potential attacks is fundamental to building effective defenses.
Right.
It's like knowing your opponent's playbook in a game.
Yeah, that makes sense. The article lists 4 main sources of security breaches: employees, hackers, terrorists, and computer viruses. And it's interesting and maybe a bit unsettling to see employees on that list. It reminds you that not all threats come from the outside.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. It's easy to think of, like shadowy hackers in faraway places, but often the biggest vulnerabilities come from the people inside with legitimate access. And these insider threats can be intentional, like a disgruntled employee, or unintentional, like someone making a mistake. And it highlights the importance of not just external firewalls, but also internal controls and user training.
Okay. Then we have hackers, terrorists, and computer viruses. Those are perhaps the external threats that come to mind more readily. Now, the article outlines the common steps in an attack. So it starts with testing and assessment. What does an attacker typically do in this initial phase?
So attackers often begin by, doing reconnaissance, basically probing potential targets to identify weaknesses and vulnerabilities in their systems.
Okay.
This might involve, scanning for open ports, trying default passwords, or looking for known software flaws. It's kind of like a burglar checking windows and doors to see if any are unlocked.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And next is exploitation and penetration. That's when they actually try to break in using the vulnerabilities they've discovered.
Exactly. So this is where they leverage those weaknesses, maybe a software bug or a misconfiguration, to gain unauthorized access to the system or network.
Okay. And once they're in, the goal is often increased privileges. Why is that so important for an attacker?
So by escalating their privileges, an attacker can gain greater control over the compromised system. So instead of just having limited access, they might aim to become an administrator, allowing them to access more sensitive data, install malicious software, or perform other harmful actions. It's like going from being a visitor to having the keys to the entire building.
Right, right. Okay. The fourth step is maintenance of access. This sounds like they want to ensure they can get back in whenever they want.
Yeah, attackers often try to establish persistent access to the compromised system,
Okay.
perhaps by installing backdoors, which are hidden ways to get back in, or creating new secret accounts so they can return at their convenience without having to repeat the initial exploitation.
Got it. And finally, denial of service. This is where they try to disrupt the normal operation of the system, making it unavailable to legitimate users.
Right. Denial of service attacks can have various motivations, from just causing chaos and disruption to extorting money. They essentially aim to overwhelm the target system with a flood of traffic or requests, making it so busy that it can't respond to legitimate users.
Okay, so the article then describes the potential consequences of a successful attack.
Mm,
And it's a pretty stark list. Destruction of resources, theft of services, denial of service, and corruption of data and applications. It really hits home, the potential damage that could be done.
absolutely. The impact of a security breach can be devastating, leading to, significant financial losses, damage to reputation and customer trust, legal liabilities, and disruption of critical services that, people rely on every day.
Right. It's quite sobering to think about the range of damage, isn't it?
Yeah.
From losing your personal files to, entire systems being crippled.
Mm-hmm.
It really underscores why this topic is so important to understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's talk about the different categories of attacks the article outlines.
Okay.
The first is cutting or breaking. And this is described as an active attack that interrupts the flow of information. Can you give us a real-world example of that?
Yeah, think of someone physically severing a fiber optic cable that provides internet service to a region,
Yeah.
right? That's a literal interruption of information flow.
Yeah.
In a more digital context, it could be an attacker exploiting a vulnerability to crash a critical server, preventing it from processing data and making a service unavailable.
Right. Okay. The second category is interception. This is a passive attack where the goal is to secretly gather information without being detected. It's like digital eavesdropping.
Exactly. So this could involve someone using specialized software to capture network traffic, potentially intercepting emails, passwords, or other sensitive communications as they travel across a network. The attacker isn't changing anything. They're just silently observing and collecting data.
Got it. The third type is changed, which is an active attack focused on the integrity of data or systems.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like it could range from something relatively minor, like altering a single digit in a database, to something much more serious, like replacing a legitimate piece of software with a malicious one.
Precisely. Any unauthorized modification of data, software, or system configurations falls into this category. The attacker is actively manipulating things to their advantage, potentially compromising the reliability and trustworthiness of the entire system.
Okay, and the last category is fabrication.
Right.
This is also an active attack, but here the target is authenticity. It's about creating fake data or traffic to deceive users or systems.
Yeah. Think of someone sending phishing emails that look like they're from a legitimate bank, trying to trick you into giving up your login credentials. Or an attacker might inject false data into a scientific study. They're creating something that appears real but isn't, often for malicious purposes.
Right. The article then touches on how attackers can exploit software vulnerabilities to take control of computers, turning them into zombie PCs for launching further attacks.
Yeah.
It also mentions the danger of worms, which can self-replicate and spread rapidly. This really paints a picture of how a single successful entry point can lead to widespread problems.
Absolutely. So a compromised computer can become part of a botnet, controlled remotely by an attacker to launch attacks on other targets. And the self-replicating nature of worms allows them to spread very quickly, potentially causing significant damage and disruption across many systems in a short amount of time.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how interconnected systems become like potential launching pads for wider attacks.
Right.
A compromised machine can be used to attack other systems,
Mhm.
often without the owner even realizing it.
Yes, that's right.
And worms are particularly insidious because of their ability to spread rapidly and autonomously across networks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's shift our focus to wireless network security. The article points out that wireless networks can be especially vulnerable, often due to misconfigurations. And this is something many of you probably use every day, whether it's your home Wi-Fi or public hotspots in cafes.
Yeah, that's right. The very nature of wireless communication, broadcasting signals through the air, inherently creates more opportunities for interception compared to physically wired networks.
Right.
It's like having a conversation in a public square versus in a closed room.
Yeah, okay. The article introduces WEP, Wired Equivalent Privacy, as an early attempt to secure 802.11 wireless networks. It used a key and RC4 encryption.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it was a good intention, but it didn't quite live up to its name in terms of providing true privacy.
Yeah, WEP was designed to provide a level of security comparable to wired networks, but it unfortunately had significant flaws. RC4 was a stream cipher, and over time, researchers discovered patterns in its key generation that could be exploited to decipher the encrypted data. And this is why it's so crucial that security protocols are constantly reviewed and updated, because what was once considered secure can become vulnerable.
Right, right. And with the increasing number of public hotspots available, the risks seem to multiply.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've definitely connected to public Wi-Fi when I'm out and about.
Yeah. Public Wi-Fi networks often lack strong security measures, making them attractive targets for attackers. The lack of encryption on some of these networks means that your data transmitted over them could potentially be intercepted by anyone nearby.
Wow.
And the presence of many unknown users on the same network also increases the risk of malicious activity.
The article mentions that early wireless standards often fell short on basic security requirements, like reliably verifying who is on the network. That's authentication, what they're allowed to do, authorization, and ensuring the privacy of their communications.
Mm-hmm.
And it notes the evolution beyond WEP to newer protocols like WPA2 and WPA3. It's a good reminder that technology is constantly evolving, and so are the security measures.
Yeah, the progression of wireless security protocols reflects this ongoing battle between security researchers identifying vulnerabilities and the development of stronger encryption and authentication methods to address those weaknesses.
Okay.
And each new standard aimed to improve upon the security of its predecessors.
Now, the article describes how an attacker might try to break into a wireless network.
Okay.
So it starts with capturing signals, which can be done passively, just by listening, or actively, which might involve sending data. And even if you hide your network name, the SSID, it can still be discovered.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that even if you choose not to broadcast your network name, it's not truly hidden.
Really?
Yeah. Network devices constantly send out management frames, and these frames often contain the SSID in an unencrypted form. So specialized tools can capture these frames, revealing the hidden network name.
Wow. Okay. And the article then breaks down the likelihood of interception in different environments,
Mm-hmm.
from a very low probability in a remote rural area to a very high probability in a busy commercial building. And it really highlights how your surroundings can influence your risk.
Yeah, this geographical perspective is important. The density of potential attackers and the value of the potential data available on a network in a particular location can significantly influence the likelihood of being targeted. A public hotspot in a busy city center will naturally attract more attention from malicious actors than a private network in a sparsely populated area.
Right, right. It's interesting to note that simply hiding your Wi-Fi network name isn't a foolproof security measure, and neither is restricting access based on MC addresses, as those can be faked or spoofed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Security is almost always about implementing multiple layers of defense. Relying on a single, easily circumvented measure provides a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Strong encryption, robust passwords, and keeping your router firmware up to date are all important components of wireless security.
So think of an MZ address like a physical address for your network card.
Okay.
And spoofing is like someone putting a fake return address on a letter.
Right.
Even if a network tries to only allow specific addresses, a skilled attacker can fake a permitted address to gain access.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's switch gears and talk about preventing and limiting access to public computer networks and the issue of cybercrime.
Okay.
The article gives a legal definition of a public computer network as interconnected computers accessible to everyone under certain conditions.
Right.
And this legal definition is important because it sets the stage for understanding what constitutes unauthorized access. Preventing or restricting access without proper authorization can indeed have legal consequences.
Yeah, this definition helps to clarify the legal boundaries around accessing and using computer networks. It emphasizes that while these networks are generally accessible, that access is often governed by terms of service and legal frameworks, and unauthorized access can lead to criminal charges.
Right. The article then introduces the concept of cybercrime, which it says is essentially the same as computer crime, criminal activities that are carried out using computers.
Mm-hmm.
And it categorizes these crimes into those that are specifically new offenses created by computers, like spreading viruses or data destruction.
Right.
And traditional crimes that are now committed using computers, like fraud or theft.
This categorization is helpful in understanding the the broad scope of cybercrime. Technology has not only created entirely new forms of criminal activity, but has also provided new tools and methods for carrying out traditional crimes, often on a much larger scale and with greater reach.
Yet what's fascinating here is the constant arms race between cybercriminals and law enforcement.
Right.
Technology evolves so quickly that it's a continuous challenge to develop effective legal frameworks, train personnel, and build the necessary international collaborations to combat these borderless crimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fundamental challenge of finding and gathering evidence in these cases is also a major hurdle.
Yeah. And the borderless nature of the internet makes international cooperation essential in investigating and prosecuting cybercriminals. The technical sophistication of many cybertechs also requires specialized skills and resources within law enforcement agencies,
Yeah.
and keeping up with the ever-evolving tactics of cybercriminals is a constant challenge.
Okay. Finally, the article touches on security tools,
Right.
and it emphasizes that there are many tools available, both commercial and free, that are designed to help identify weaknesses and vulnerabilities, those security holes in computer systems and networks.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding these tools is vital for network administrators because knowing what tools attackers might use helps them anticipate attack methods and proactively strengthen their defenses.
Yes, knowledge of these tools allows security professionals to, think like an attacker,
Yeah,
to identify potential entry points and weaknesses before they can be exploited.
right.
It's a crucial aspect of proactive security management.
The article broadly groups these tools into those that can find network signals and identify the type of protection being used, and those that can intercept and attempt to decrypt wireless data. But it also includes a very important warning that using these tools for unauthorized access is illegal and can lead to serious consequences.
That's the critical point. These tools are powerful, and like any powerful tool, they can be used for good or for harm. Their legitimate use is in assessing and improving security, not in conducting unauthorized activities.
Yeah, the ethical and legal implications of using these tools are paramount.
Hmm.
While they are valuable for security testing and research when used appropriately, unauthorized use can lead to serious legal consequences.
Right.
The key takeaway is that understanding these tools empowers administrators to identify and fix vulnerabilities in their own networks. So as we bring this deep dive into computer security to a close, based on the insights from this article, we've seen that security isn't a static thing you set up once and forget about. It's an ongoing process of managing risk, built on those core principles of keeping information confidential, ensuring its integrity, and maintaining its availability. We've looked at the various ways systems can be attacked, especially the vulnerabilities that can exist in wireless networks. And we've learned that understanding these weaknesses and the kinds of tools that can be used to exploit them is absolutely crucial for putting effective defenses in place.
And hopefully, you now have a clearer picture of not just the technical aspects of computer security, but also the underlying principles and the constant need for vigilance in our increasingly interconnected world.
Yeah.
By grasping these fundamentals, you're now better equipped to navigate the security challenges in your own digital life and within any organizations you might be involved with.
Here's a final thought for you to consider. Given the relentless pace of technological change and the ever-evolving tactics of those who seek to exploit vulnerabilities, how can individuals and organizations move beyond simply reacting to the latest threats and instead cultivate a truly proactive and resilient security mindset?
Right.
What questions do you now have about how new technologies like artificial intelligence might both help and hinder our efforts to stay secure in the future?
Yeah.
It's a constantly evolving landscape, and staying informed and thinking critically is your best defense.